Well, a previous video I had installed some Carter's Customs goodies, such as their aero parts, like the side skirt extension. We got our rear splitter. We got our rear diffuser down there. Well, today I am going to show you, or we're going to learn together rather, how to install their front lip. For now, I took the Mach 1 lip off of there. This is Carter's Custom Street version here. It's got a little bit of gravity to it. I mean, it's still somewhat, lightweight material. It's very strong stuff. Well, there's a little issue, and I'm going to show you about it before we do an install on it. And this is something you should do too if you add any extra weight to your front bumper. So behind your bumper and your headlights, there's going to be this panel called a header panel. You'll see it right here on the back side of your headlight. It goes all the way across to the other side, and it's just more or less support for the upper part of your bumper. That's what your headlights hook to when you use these clips. That's what holds your headlights into that header panel. Well, that thing is made of, gosh, I don't know, it feels like fiberglass or something like that. If you give your bumper a wiggle test, if it moves quite a bit, you'll see, maybe you'll see that the header panel flexes quite a bit. Well, that can be an issue. We say you hit some bumps or something like that. All that weight of the air dam is going to flex the bumper and stuff around a lot. You can eventually break this tab off that holds the grill and the top of the bumper onto the header panel. That can break. What I'm going to do in the meantime is install some support brackets. What I'll do is I'll peel some of this back once I get the fastener off, and I'll show you what you'd be working with. So I'm going to start with that before I start putting the air dam on there. Okay, I'll show you some tools we'll need to do both projects. This is the bag. This is the header panel repair kit for, well, the header panel, and this is what we're going to install before we start putting on the spoiler, front lip for the car, what have you. I would do at least this before you think of putting that lip on, because it's got a little bit of weight, and with the flex that header panel has on the car, you're going to want some support. In fact, I think later too is I'll get some bumper support rods that you see on some cars with big lips on the front, just to give it a little more support down underneath, just to take any stress off the top of the header panel. Tools you'll need for this, it looks like, I was looking through this hardware, it looks like I'm going to need a 4mm Allen wrench for these screws here. And it uses these nuts that are either 11mm or a 7/16 is going to work. So I have a 7/16 wrench out here. I'll get a 7/16 socket if I need that too. So get a ratchet with a 7/16, probably a regular socket. I don't think you need a deep well. 7/16 is also what this hardware is that comes with the Carter's Customs front lip. Both the bolt itself and the nylon locking nuts are both 7/16, so you'll need a socket for both that and then this wrench anyway for when you go to fasten that on. Back to this kit. Several companies I think make these, but this particular one came from Late Model Restoration. There's one point you will need to drill a hole for, I think it is these screws right here, these bolts. And so I think they use a 1/4-inch drill bit. So I got my drill bits. I'm drilling into that fiberglass, and I think the best thing to do is start by drilling a pilot hole first before going the full 1/4-inch. So I'll start with something small, get them started, and then 1/4-incher all the way through. We got that. So I got my drill. Get a screwdriver or some kind of fastener removal tool, because where your bumper cover attaches to the top of the header panel next to the headlights, you'll need something to remove the fasteners. Later, when it comes to the lip install, we'll probably need some tape, because I have an idea. There's probably a couple of ways I can go about doing this. I can remove the bumper off the car and set it aside and do it somewhere, but I have a plan to do it on the car, but I'm just gonna tape it up, more or less like I did on the side panels of the car. I'll tape it up, and then I'll start drilling holes and screwing it on and just going from there. We'll make it work. One last thing I forgot to add is get yourself an 8mm socket or a 5/16. They're they're practically the same size because your header panel has bolts on it and it mounts up with 8mm, and you're going to be dinking with those a little bit. All right, let's get to starting here. So we need to access behind the header panel over here. So we need to remove the headlights, and we need to take these fasteners off so we can lift the top of the bumper cover away from it. We'll start with these guys right here. And this is where the flathead will come in, unless you got a trim removal tool. Maybe you got different hardware. I don't even know if this is stock. It's been so long since I put it on. This is a GT front end, but I had put these Mach 1 open grill panels on it, and I don't know if those are the stock hardware. Probably not. But that's that. Headlights are super easy if you've never taken them out. There's 2 pins, and just like that they come out. Isn't that ridiculous? Well, what you can do is pull this out and set it somewhat aside. Note though that you can, if this rubs on your bumper cover, you'll scratch it, so keep that in mind. If I scratch mine, I'll just buff it out. Big deal. There's the bolts I need to access. Bracket time. We got left side, right side, and then these guys to support them on the upside. This should be the left side anyway. So this is going to bolt up. Okay, must be going about right there when I bolt it up. All right. Yeah, 2 good things about these is they're aluminum, so they won't rust out on you. 2, this will support the header panel in a way that it practically bolts them up more or less to the radiator support that's metal there. So this shouldn't flex anymore and give me the support I need. Let's start by getting this unbolted and just loosen those up enough. Okay. In theory, I should slide that in here. Okay, looks good. Man, that thing flexes so much. Well, I got an issue. I don't know if you can see from my camera angle, those holes don't quite line up. I'm going to do one thing before I bolt that up, and I'm going to drill the hole on the header panel itself bigger. I got a 3/8 drill bit. I wonder if that'll be big enough. Watch me break this as I do it. Easy. That's better. Once upon a time, somebody didn't put his bumper cover on right. This guy, because these little tabs are supposed to be in this slot you see right here. But that's okay. Whatever. Put that bracket in there. Now do my holes line up? More or less. Enough anyway. Alright. Snug her down. Oops. What I need to do is hold this header panel up and then snug her down. That's more like it. My holes still line up. Kinda. I think I can make that work. Okay, that's in place. Does it feel better? I guess we still have some flex there. I think that's more or less on that metal L bracket, but you know, it does seem a bit more secure. I'll be all right with that. Next part is this upper bracket portion. And all those holes should line up to where I can put this all together and bolt it up. Okay, I'm going to sandwich those all together, and I think we need one of these Allen head bolts, the little countersink washer thing, and one of these nuts. And if I can just get these all to fit together. Solid. Okay. Start the nut. Looks good so far. Before I crank that down, I'm going to do the hole drilling for this guy right here. I guess I won't need a pilot hole after all. I'll more or less have the hole already lined up from the one that's already on this upper bracket. Looks like I'm drilling through the fiberglass and through this main bracket that I have put on. Make sure it fits in there. We're good. So I just kind of hand tighten this softly. Now what I'm going to do is line this up with the edge of the bracket here, so they're all straight, you know what I mean? And what I'm going to do is drill a hole through this fiberglass and through this bracket, so I have a through hole to put the same hardware in right here, so give it extra more support. Put it through. I'm going to crank this back one down first. Again, that's a 4mm Allen wrench and either a 7/16 wrench, or you can use an 11mm in its place. Snug that down good, because it's just metal to metal. You're not going to break anything. And then I can do the same with this other one right here. This one I won't snug so tight, just because you're going through plastic. I don't want to smash and crack the plastic. Solid. Well, that's more or less it for these brackets. To repeat the same thing on the other side, and then we'll go to the air dam. Got my headlights in. I got these bolted up. Shake test. Gosh, it still moves, doesn't it? But this feels much more rigid than it did before. It's got to be better than nothing. All right, fun parts time. I got my air dam. I got the car lifted up a little bit on the front so I can work underneath. What I need to do, first I'll show you. This gets held on by a total of, it looks like 10 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 holes there. I'm using that 1/4" drill bit I used on my header panel bracket. Now the problem is I need to be able to suspend this up and tape it to the bumper while I get these holes figured out. Where I need to start, I think, is what I'm going to do is tape this up to the bumper somehow. We'll wing it as we go, and I have a plan to start by drilling the rearmost bolt holes onto the underside of the bumper on both sides, and then I will do the front 2, and then after that it shouldn't be a problem doing the other 3 on each side. Okay, just the first mock-up. So yeah, this has got some weight, but it's not like 50 pounds or anything. It's probably, gosh, it's probably 10 pounds still. That's gonna sit up right there like that, looking good. Well, I need to recruit not only masking tape, but my good buddy duct tape. Wait, what? This isn't duct tape. This is, what is it? Tuck tape? Not to be confused. All right. Get me out of a jam. I better use a little extra just in case. Actually, I think the masking tape will be okay for the sides. Slap that on there. Let's just try that so far and see what that does. Okay, that's staying. Oh, it fell down. Let's try this side. Again. Wrap it to the side this time. Ooh, feeling loose. It looks like it doesn't sit flush with the front end. It's recessed a little bit. But that's cool. That's just like the Mach 1 air dam piece. Boy, is that gonna hold? What kind of duct tape are we working with? Better use some more. And do that, huh? The idea being, I want this flush with the bumper. Minding the flushness of this side of the bumper as I do it. See how that compares to the other side. Kind of fighting me a little bit, like it's a little too wide. but I guess the bumper flexes. I think as long as my tape stays in place, I'll start the one side, drill my hole, start a bolt, and lightly snug it down. Okay, after dinking around for 5 minutes, I started taping from the back side of the air dam, and I worked it through the bumper and taped it over the top this way, supported it like that, and then I came to one side, taped it at the bottom, and then went all the way up to the bumper cover and fender on both sides, and then I did the same with passenger side. I'll deal with that gap later, but I think it's gonna stay for me. I'm gonna drill the hole off camera just because even though I can strap this camera to my head, I still can't drill the hole and hold this with two hands. It's not gonna work out. So the idea being, I'm gonna get this flush with the side of the bumper, and I'm gonna get this flush with the back of the front bumper, you know what I mean? Never minding the curve on the bottom edge. I just want this black part to be flush with this part right here. Once I get that part figured out, I'll drill my first hole. I'll get the nut and bolt started over here, and then we'll work the passenger side, do that. Hopefully do the front two, and it should be, in theory, a breeze from there. This was where the hole was on the air dam. Once I got this all lined up by hand, I drilled with the 1/4-inch drill bit. Now, mind you, there's stuff behind this bumper. Luckily I didn't hit anything. But if you have fog lights, whether factory or aftermarket, yeah, make sure your wiring and stuff is out of the way so you don't, cut into that stuff. Otherwise, the rest of it is more or less open, and you can get your hands in there to start a nut when you go to put the hardware in. By the way, I pulled the hardware out, and this is something that you should probably check over before you do anything at all, or start throwing hardware in there. There's going to be these little sleeve spacers. As you see, they're different lengths. You start on the back one where I drilled that first hole, you're going to start with the shortest bolt and the shortest little spacer sleeve, and then work your way up to the longest ones in the center, and then go back down to the short ones on the sides. I just wanted to make sure I have a washer for each nut and a washer for each bolt. These center 4 are very close to the same length, so keep a sharp eye on which ones are the longest. Because those two need to be in the center, or otherwise you might have a big old gap as you're putting the air dam on and have problems later. So if your hardware looks like that, you're good to go, especially those sleeves. So as far as the bolts and the sleeves, I kind of shoved the sleeve in there between the air dam and the bumper, and I'm doing it where I'm doing bolt up into the bumper with a nut on top. I suppose you can do it the other way around, but then you got to deal with the stud of the bolt sticking out past the nut, reducing your ground clearance just that little bunch more, and I'd rather not deal with that, so I'm putting the bolt up. You'll start tightening it, and then you'll see that gap kind of close up. So that was the first bolt. I kept it flush from the side profile and the back profile, so I'll do the other side and we'll work to the front. Note 2 is that it'll come with this protective panel, and I probably should have taken that off because now it's in the way when I go to remove it. Well, that's okay. I'll get my other bolt started, and then I'll take the rest of it off because it's not really necessary after that. I have just a tiniest bit of gap in there, but that's okay. Cranking it down, I couldn't get it to tighten up. I'm going to leave that because it's really not that bad or noticeable. So I'm going to start with these front 2 or maybe even 4 bolts, and I'm going to drill a hole and then do my bolts, tighten them down, and I'm going to drill the holes one at a time because let's say if I drill all the holes now, they may not line up by the time you finish putting the bolts in. So I think your best bet is to drill the holes as you need them, just in case they get out of alignment later. I'm going to finish my bolts, and then we'll see the finished product after that. Okay, looking good so far. I got the center two bolts in. I got the two side ones done. I just got to drill the rest of the holes and fill those in. But right now we can more or less see what the finished product looks like. The lip sticks out farther than the front of the bumper. It sits pretty well flush on there. I suppose if you had enough gap in there, that is probably determined by those spacers, those different size spacers. If you were to shave those down just a little bit, if you're having troubles with gap issues, I bet you can just kind of grind those down a little bit, and then it would probably work better. So that's that. I'm pretty happy with this. So if I wasn't making this video, I would probably allow yourself, I don't know, God, probably 2 hours to get this lined up properly. The tape, as you saw me do it, that worked for me. So in theory it should for you too. It's just a little bit of patience mocking it up for the very first time, because man, that thing's gonna want to move around on you all over the place. As we discovered, you and I, that this is a lot more involved than putting on like any of the other Carter's Custom stuff. But man, this front piece really ties the rest of it together. Whether you get this street version, they have a couple of different race versions where the pan actually stretches all the way back to probably the K member there by the oil pan. But this is enough for what I want. I just wanted an appearance package, and it looks great. So keep that in mind if you're looking at a front lip. It's a little more involved, but you can do it while it's on the car. Allow yourself a little patience. Round up the right tools, and just take it easy, and it'll go on for you. Well, I appreciate you watching. I hope you like the kit, and before I end the video, I'll take some shots of it sitting outside in the sun. I like it. That's a great bit of kit.